But we'll just get right into it. Contentful. Contentful is our CMS, content management system. Essentially what this is this allows us to publish content to all of the News 12 platforms. And it does it in a way that's simultaneous. And once you actually post the piece of content, you won't necessarily have to worry about if it's going on the app or if it's going on OTT apps or if it's going on the website. It all just kind of goes there at once when we publish and order things on the homepage. So it's .com, it's the mobile apps, the connected TV. It does power our newsletters. Also our content syndication. We have our stuff on Apple News and a bunch of other news aggregators that this helps, publish this stuff out to. I'll walk through it. If I can do it, certainly anybody on this call can do it very well. It's definitely doable. First things first.
I'm sorry, I just joined.
Oh, hey, Mara.
Hey. So if there are any power users that are on the call and you guys feel like there's some other information that everyone needs to know, please jump in because this should be interactive. This should be, and obviously there are questions because this is a new platform to a lot of people. Please also jump in with questions. All right.
Yeah, and I'm also not super versed in doing trainings, especially over Teams. So if at any point I don't see a hands up icon or whatever, just yell and tell me you have a question and tell me to stop talking and I'll stop on that. Please, and the more questions, the better, and just don't be afraid to ask anything. Okay, first things first, accessing Contentful. This is going to be the URL, and everybody's going to have a username and a password. And once you log in, you'll be taken to this page. This is the content page. This is sort of the home base, okay? From here, this is everything that's in Contentful right now, and you can search for it by content type up here. It will default to any. 99% of the time, when everyone's going to look for a piece of content, it's going to be story. So at that point, if you just use this drop down and go to story, it will filter to just display stories. You can also further drill down to, sort by name, updated newest, updated oldest. So this is sort of the home base where we kick everything off from. To create a story, you're going to want to do is go up to this add entry button on the top right. Sure, one slide here. And it's on the top right. So once you go here, one of the options is going to be story. Click on story. From here, you're presented with all the fields within the story. And these are fairly self-explanatory, right? Your story title is going to be your headline. Your story description is going to be sort of the abstract. And from an editorial perspective, what we like to do is, the headline's the headline. We want strong words. We want something that's, going to reach out to the user and make them want to actually have interest and click in the story. The story description is an extension of that. You sort of want to take additional interesting information in the story and put that there because, it's like, you want to keep giving out a little bit of information. Hey, you really want to read this. Your story body is your standard text that goes in the story. This is very much what you see is what you get editor. You've got your standard, bold, italic, underline. You can link it. You can do bullets. You can do numbers, pull quotes. Not necessarily all the time going to be using this, but they're there if you want them. Okay. Author is going to be actually who wrote the article. We have bylines already in here for, I think, most people. And if you need to be added, let us know. We can get you added. There is also a News 12 staff option. If, multiple people are working on this, or it's a very quick 2 sentences that we pulled from a VO or from a breaking news situation, you can put that on there. And if we're using Associated Press content, we have an Associated Press byline. Okay. You've got your updated and originally published tabs. When you're publishing for the first time, don't need to worry about these. They're going to automatically populate and update. If you need to go in eventually, if you add a bunch of facts later down the line and you want it to look a little fresher and you don't want it to say that it was updated like 3 hours ago, you can go in and just, utilize these tools to, put the actual time in. Thumbnail is going to be the small picture that you'll see when you're sharing a link with somebody or when it shows up in a Google search or anything like that. We'll get more into this later, but that's what that is. Video file is going to be the video that plays at the top of the article. There's going to be a separate training for the Grass Valley video editing, but items that are edited and published in Grass Valley will be pulled into Contentful automatically, and that is where we're going to get that content. Hero image is the giant photo that shows up at the top of the article. However, if you have a video in the article, it's going to overwrite the hero image. I personally don't see a big deal with putting a hero image in there anyway, just in case the video needs to come down or something like that. But just keep in mind that the video file will overwrite that hero image at the top of the article. Your regions, pretty self-explanatory. Which regions does this impact? Is this every region? You can just multiple click all of them. Or is it, just Bronx, Brooklyn? Is it just Long Island and Westchester? Or is it just Long Island? It really depends where the story is originating, what region's going to be impacted. Keywords. This is for sort of Google magic and SEO magic. This is going to need some work at some point down the line, and we've talked about streamlining this. Right now, it's not the greatest, but we do have a bunch of existing keywords in there. If it's a story that we cover all the time, we have the Jets in there. But if it's something that we've never actually covered before, you can create a new keyword and put that in there and publish that, which I'm not going to do now, but. And then more or less the rest of the stuff you really don't need to worry about on the normal workflow stuff. This will automatically default to yes for Apple News if it's a brand new article. That puts it in the syndication for Apple News. So you don't have to worry about that. Still got here on the slide. Went through the fields. Understanding the story. That was cool. That was cool. Sounds like some dance music or something, a sample. The video tutorials in this slide, and I think the best thing to do at this point is to actually walk through publishing a story so you guys can see how it's done in real time. And we have one ready to go. And then I think after that, I will show you how to actually put something in a homepage carousel and order it and publish it to the homepage so that it actually shows up on the homepage. Okay. Any questions about anything so far? Anything you need me to go over again yet? Okay. So actually, what's that thing I had? Worry about it. Okay, so we have a follow-up on this terrible story about the MRI machine death on Long Island. We can either you've written this or a reporter has written the copy and has sent it into you and you copy edit it and it's all good to go. I am just going to take this headline. And I'm going to put the headline in there. I'm going to paste it. Now you're going to notice there's this slug field here. Okay. This is going to be your URL for the story. It's going to be longisland.news12.com/this. Every slug is unique. If this has been used before, you will get an error message here saying, hey, you can't use this. This URL is already in use. That's extremely rare that would happen. But if you get something blocked and you can't use that slug, that's why. It's going to give you this little validation here. Hey, slug's good. Okay. Story description. We said we want to use something kind of interesting. For people who don't know the story and want some more, details, I think this is a good place to start to sort of have it as the abstract in the story. Put that there. Now, story body. I'm just going to take the full thing, we're going to copy it, and we're going to paste it. Now, what I usually like to do when I'm pasting content into here to make sure that there's no, weird symbols or there's no URLs or anything like that that we don't want in there, I usually do copy as plain text, and on PC, that's Control-Shift-V, and that will strip everything out. Or if you want to use it with a right click on the mouse, you do right click, paste as plain text. That'll make sure that there's no weirdness in the text if you're copying something from email or from Word or from Google Docs or something like that. It just sort of helps keep things together. In this case, author, I'll use News 12 staff. Our thumbnail in our video, Brian has already edited this video in Grass Valley, so it's in Contentful now, waiting for us to attach to the story. One thing with that, in Grass Valley, which as I mentioned is going to be a separate training, you have the option to select an actual thumbnail that goes with that article. That thumbnail will be pulled into Contentful along with the video if you've selected a thumbnail in Grass Valley, which is going to be 99% of the time. Okay. So let's do existing content. Oops. That's the file name, which is what he named it in Grass Valley. So when you open this video window and you do add existing, the newest stuff is going to be up top. So if you just did something, more than likely it's going to be near the top and you can just select it. You can search for an actual name if you want to. In this case, if I search for the name, there it is. Click on it. And if you notice, it pulled in the thumbnail as well, because that's a thumbnail that he selected in Grass Valley. Okay. After we publish this article, we'll go over how to actually upload a separate thumbnail if you have never used that before, if you need something that's sort of outside the video. Hero image, again, you can use the same one. If you do add existing media, it's going to bring up this little gallery here. You can see there it is. You can also search by the video file name, and there's the thumbnail that came in with the video, and you can use that as a hero image as well if you want. But this is going to be overwritten by the video. Okay, this is a Long Island story. We'll tag it Long Island. Categories. I forgot to mention this in the intro. In terms of making sure that this article goes where it needs to go, and so sort of our specialized beat reports, or to make sure that the analytics people have access to specific categories that they're drilling down to in the numbers. We have a preset set of categories. And if you do add existing content, you can see all the different categories that we have. In this case, you always want to make sure if it's a local impacting story that you're selecting local. Okay. This isn't going to fall into one of our major categories like crime or anything like that. If it was, you're going to notice on some of those sort of more common categories, like we'll put in crime, you'll see data underscore crime. This data underscore is just for our metrics people to be able to go in and find that stuff easier. And if you were going to add sort of one of those categories to this, you want to make sure that the data stuff is up top, both local or anything else. It helps them find it easier. That being said, if you're not sure and it's a local story, just do local, and you can ask if it fits into, if we have a category about something, or if it should fit into a specific category or not. You can ask a manager, and you can always go back in and edit it. In this case, we don't want data crime though. So with any of these pieces of content, like these categories or regions or anything like that, you'll see these 3 dots. You can just remove. Okay. We're going to have Justin Fields of keywords. I don't know if this gentleman has been put in our keyword yet. Yeah, I mean, MRI machine. If people are going to be searching for this story, this is the term they're going to use. Okay, so we'll put that in there. Keywords, not essential. If you're not sure or you have questions and you need to publish the story quickly, skip keywords, come back to it later. Talk to a manager. Hey, should I put keywords in for this? Do we have keywords for this? Not essential to publish in a pinch. All right, we don't have to mess with any of this stuff. So now that this is good to go, we're going to hit this green publish button. We're now published. Okay. So this story is now live. And if you need to get a URL for this story, you just have to take the slug, longisland.news12.com/this, and there's the story that we just published. Now, keep in mind, even though this is tagged Long Island and it's a Long Island story, you can access this through different region URLs. Like this, you can just put Connecticut.news12.com, and it's the same story, but now in Connecticut. If for whatever reason, like sometimes we have region-wide stories that impact everybody, and for social media, you know, on the Connecticut pages, we want it going to the Connecticut URL. You can do that. Okay. Questions so far? Anything? I actually need to change this. This is in normal military time, by the way. Same thing we do on it. So. And if you ever need to change anything, you can go in and just hit the publish button again. All right. So if there's no questions, I'll move on to how to put this on the home page. Cool. Okay, so now we actually, want to get this into the homepage carousel. If you go back to your content tab up here, if you remember, this was sort of our home base when we first logged in. The carousels for each homepage are called story lists. So we don't want to search for stories anymore. We want to uncheck that and search for story lists. And these are usually right at the top. Here's all the regions, okay? These are the homepage carousels. If I click on LI top stories, this is everything on the Long Island homepage right now. If you notice, the police officer shot at in Long Island as the top story. This matches up exactly with what's in this carousel right now. All right. There is a limit to the amount of stories that we have. If you scroll down to the end and you notice there's no option to add another story, we've hit our limit on the carousel. We can't add any more without removing something. So what we do is we usually take the oldest piece of content out, but you can remove anything. There's these 3 dots here on the story. We're going to remove that. Now we have space for one more story. Now we have an option to add existing content. If we click on that, there's our story we just did. It's usually right toward the top because it's one of the last things that was published. Or you can drill down and search for it. Once you click on it, you insert it. Cool. Now it's in the carousel, but it's at the bottom. This is a pretty big story, and we want to make sure that that's near the top. So if you right click on this and do move to top, it'll zap it right to the top. In this case, it's editorial discretion. Is this more important than this or this? Today, no. This is a huge story. We've got a heat alert. So I'm looking like this is probably going to be the 3rd or 4th story to go in the carousel, and I'm making that editorial decision, right? If you move the cursor over here, it turns into a hand, and click on the mouse, you can then drag it. Okay, so this is our order now, and we're going to publish it. Now, if we go back and we refresh the Long Island homepage, there it is, just like we set it up in the carousel. Homicide investigation, weather, MRI. Okay. Let me look at my slide to see what I missed. Anybody have any questions? Anything you need me to go back over? Anything not making sense?
So typically we're leaving weather at number 2.
Yes.
Right, Frank?
Unless there's like a major storm day or, listen, if this situation in Bayshore wasn't happening today, heat would probably be the story. That'd be the one that we have up top. But, this is a major story going on in Bayshore right now. So, all right, cool. So that's the story workflow. I had mentioned what to do if, you need to either post an AP article that doesn't have an automatic thumbnail coming in with the video, or you just have a better photo. Like, let's say, like when the New Jersey had the water spout story earlier this week, we actually got a really incredible photo from a user that was going to be better than, the quick VO, anything from the quick VO that we showed on air in New Jersey that we wanted to use for our thumbnail. So we need to upload that outside of the video workflow, and I'll show you how to do that. So you do it one of two ways. You can either go to this media tab up top to the right of content, which is our home base. And let me grab a AP photo here that we can use. Oops. Keeping with the theme of today. Grab this Justin Fields photo.
I'm sorry about Justin Fields, by the way, Frank.
Yeah, it's listen, we weren't going anywhere this year anyway, but you can't make it up. Okay. I do not like the new AP format. It is not good. It's not intuitive. So now we can do add asset. 99% of the time it's going to be single assets, but you can do multiple assets if you wanted to. I personally have never used multiple assets. It's always just been, hey, I've got one off. The title can be whatever you want it to be. I usually try to make it something that's easy for other people to find should they need it. Justin Fields Jets, let's do. And then you hit that open file selector button and then select file to upload. You know what? I'll use this Ryder Cup image because it's just easier. That's what it does. All right. I'll just say Ryder Cup test. Publish. Okay. Now this is in the photo library for us to use whenever we need it. Okay. So if I go into a story, I uncheck story list and go to story because I want to search for an actual story. We're not actually going to swap this out, but if we ended up getting a better thumbnail for this later down the line, like let's say, the family sent in a better picture of the victim, can just remove this, link existing asset. There's what we just uploaded, and you can replace it that way, but we're not going to do that. Okay. Also, when you're adding a thumbnail to a story, you can just create the new asset right here. You can just bring up this whole workflow right from inside the story versus having to go to the media tab. but we're not going to do that. Okay. What else is any questions on anything so far?
Are we
I would
going to
just-
be getting?
Oh,
Oops,
sorry.
sorry.
Go ahead.
Go
Go ahead.
Are we going to be getting like a list of logins? Because even like
Yes.
I don't have like an AP newsroom login and stuff like that.
Yeah, everybody's going to get all that stuff distributed. And you know, AP Newsroom's a good one. I just use that as an example to download something, but yes, you should absolutely have that. Bob, you had something?
Yeah, just the opportunity to use multiple assets for uploading many pictures at once is usually when a meteorologist sends a chunk of images for their forecast. So you can highlight all of those images and slide them over into multiple assets just to upload like 10 or 12 photos at the same time for weather. If you're ever updating a weather story.
Okay.
It's only being charged with.
And I'll add on that, when you're using multiple images, quite often there's a glitch in the system and you can't do it twice in a row. So you have to refresh that page and redo it. Sometimes you get an error message if you try to do it back to back, if you're doing like 2 weathers at a time or something like that.
Cool. Awesome.
Hey Frank, this might be a separate class, but is there a way to maybe provide some tips on expectations? Let's say if the person doing this has written for TV for a long time, maybe not accustomed to AP style. Is there a first person, second person? What's the recommendation when you're actually writing these?
There is going to be a writing class, a separate writing class. I will say that in terms of the writing that our writing style, we're not doing, 10-page in-depth New York Times pieces, right? Like they're mainly 3 to 5 paragraphs, front loaded with the important information. You want to hit people right out of the gate with what's the most important, the most important facts in the story. But yeah, we are going to cover that in a separate class. And again, it does not have to be super in-depth. Reporters out in the field, specifically investigative reporters or some reporters who've been doing this for a while, do write longer than 3 to 5 graphs, and that's that's fine because they're connected to the story and they're sort of right there. But for content editor purposes, we usually don't go super long. Does that make sense?
Yes, thank you.
And also stories are going to be edited before they're published too.
Yeah. Yeah, there's always a second set of eyes on it. All right, cool. Our next thing is you can upload video outside of Grass Valley in this system. If you do have a piece of content that you would like to upload that is video, go back to the content tab and there's this button called apps. If you drop down, you do video uploads. This other stuff we don't use at all. Apps, we strictly use video uploads. Okay. Browse. I don't know if I have any video. Maybe. All right, I've got this old with you promotion.
I was going to say I have one that I need if you want me to send it to you.
Nah, it's all right. We'll just do this for now. So I had to do these with you promotions, right? And those weren't in Grass Valley. Those were actually sent to me by marketing. In your case, it might be, hey, a reporter shot this really awesome iPhone video of a fire. We can't go to air for another hour, but you can use this in the article. So this is what you would do in that case. And then you would just upload it. It's going to take a little while. You'll see it says transcoding. And when it's done, this will go from progressing to completed. And then this is the title. It's the file name. So if you need to change it to something different, make sure you change the file name because this is how it's going to show up. Once it's done progressing, sometimes these move quick. Sometimes they take a little while. It's not the greatest. but there you go. It says completed. And then if I go into content and then video file,
You'll get a bill, don't worry about
there it is.
it. I get it.
So if I go into an article and I need to attach video to it, that will be available to me to add. So if I go here,
And the videos can only be, they can't be MOVs, they can be
Yeah.
MP4s and MXFs, right?
correct. I'm not going to change this, but the video would be there available for me to put in the story if I wanted to do that. But again, 99% of the time, you're going to be cutting stuff from Grass Valley, sending it over to Contentful, and that's how we're going to get the video. But there are times we do need to upload video outside the system.
Can I toss in a comment?
Go.
Regarding the uploading of videos and photos, a limitation of Contentful is that it will not display vertical photos or videos. So done in like the portrait style. You just won't be able to upload at all the video. You can upload the photo, but it will not display correctly. It'll show up with the top and the bottom cut off. So if someone is asking for you to get vertical video or a vertical photo into Contentful and onto a story, this does happen a lot when certain regions want to use citizen video or stuff from reporters at the scene. You will have to physically edit the video in Premiere. You'll have to flip it to the right to be in the right setting. And then usually you have to increase the size of it too. For photos, it's really, if you really need a full vertical video, like with that water spout, someone took a photo of it and it had to be all of it, but it was a vertical photo. We have a Photoshop background that you can drag it into, and then you can upload it. It's kind of got that classic News 12 blue background. So those are limitations just to be aware of, because quite often in breaking news, you will get stuff like that. And you want to get the stuff in quick, but if you put the stuff in super quick and it's vertical, it'll look like it will look not even recognizable. You'll have a head cut off of a photo, or you'll be missing the majority of the water spout if you do it the wrong way. That's all.
Yeah, it's just a matter of if it's not sort of horizontal, some extra steps are gonna have to be taken to get it to look properly. Like, we do get a lot of vertical photos and the system cuts it off, and it's a known issue and it's on the roadmap to be addressed at some point. Okay,
Hey, Frank.
finally.
Frank,
Yes,
I
yes, sir.
apologize if I missed this or I didn't hear it. But isn't there naming, when you're naming your video, isn't there some restrictions to that?
You tell me.
I think it glitches
haven't
out
run
if
into that.
there's I think it's all got to be one word, and there can't be any like symbols or numbers or anything like that,
Okay,
or dots.
if you're uploading.
Yes, if you're uploading. It
Got it.
usually comes in on like a lot of times with fixes.
Mhm.
This is how I usually use it. This
Okay.
one, if you can't wait for the 2 o'clock re-airing and you have to have edit, put something in into file drop, and their naming conventions are different than ours. I'm pretty sure it's got to be MP4s, but I'm not 100% sure about that.
Yeah, MP4, and it's alphanumeric, so you could do numbers or letters.
I'll add that stuff into the slides for reference, so thank you for that. And again, most of the time you're just gonna be taking stuff from Grass Valley. It's not an issue, but if you do need to upload, like the system's not perfect, and there are clearly those slight things that you need to remember. Okay. Finally, the last thing for the training is breaking news banners. And I included this in here because as the content editor is going to be handling a lot of breaking news, some major, there are times when we want to give the breaking news that little extra oomph in the presentation. And to do that, we can put a red banner at the top of the website and the app. It's just a visual It's to let people know like, hey, this is really important and we're on it. I'm sure you guys have seen them here and there. So what we can do is I will go back to this add entry button. And instead of story this time, there's an option for banner. And here are these fields. I outlined everything in the deck so you'll know what each of these things mean. But the tagline is always going to be the big text to the left of what you want to call this. So it would be breaking news or storm watch or developing, something like that. The title would be exactly what you want the text to say. Let's look at something that we can. So we can take that. CTA means nothing. It doesn't show up anywhere. I don't know why this field is in here, so I'd like to get rid of it at some point, but I usually just right click because it doesn't actually show up anywhere. Story, you have to have a story to go with these. So even if it's 2 sentences on a breaking news story of what we know, there has to be a story to go along with this. Otherwise you can't publish it. So search for the pump stuff. There it is. Your region, again, you can do multiple or you can do one. In this case, we'll do Long Island. Sorry, the stupid thing keeps getting in my way. And type, most of the time it's going to be news. Weather is sort of, we don't really use that anymore. I forget what color that shows up in. Normally, if we're going to do a breaking news banner for weather, it dovetails into a breaking news situation, major storm, storm watch, storm related event. So we don't really use weather all that much. We also have a promotion option. This is rare, but there are times we do need to highlight something on the site for one of our originals, one of our special pieces of content. In this case, we would select that promotion item and it shows up in a blue versus the standard breaking news red. This is a relevant news item. This can be a breaking news item live. So I'm going to put it live just for a second to show you guys what it looks like, but I'm sure you've all seen it. If I publish it, and now I go to Long Island and I refresh, there's our breaking news banner. Look into it. It takes you to the story. Okay. I've outlined all those steps in the deck. When the breaking news is done and you want to take it down, unpublish. Yes, unpublish entry. Now it's gone. Okay. Any questions on that? All right. I believe that was my last piece of knowledge here. Yeah.
Can I add something?
Go for it, Lee.
Okay. Once you publish your story, it's really, really important to check it.
Yes.
It's not in the carousel yet. So you go to your region, you click on the local tab, open it up, make sure there are no spelling mistakes, make sure the spacing is correct, make sure whatever you've embedded in the story is in there. Make sure that nothing is in draft. And if you can't find your story, it could be you didn't publish it, or you have to make sure that in the category section that you have to type local in there to get it into that local page. But it's really important to check it. I didn't know if you wanted to talk about embedding like a tweet or
yeah, you know what, that's a good call, and I do have to add that stuff. And yeah, let's talk about that real quick. Also, side note, if you want to check your content in addition to the local tab, we can go back to the slug that I talked about earlier. And if you just want to check this after you publish it, you just have to take that slug and add it to the end of longisland.news12.com and jersey.news12.com/ and it'll bring the story up and you can take a look at it. Okay. I do need to add a slide on short codes, but you can embed tweets and YouTube videos into an article. Let's see here.
Also, about changing slug. Sometimes you might want to change the slug because your slug in the morning could be man to be arraigned, and you want to change it to, the person was arraigned. So maybe we can go over that too.
Yep, you can change this as long as this comes up as valid, it's fine. Like, you know, later tonight at 5 o'clock, if it's the person was actually, somebody was arrested, you can just say, you know, when you change the headline to person arrested, you can change this to say person, you know, dash arrested. It does need to be this like this, though. You can't have spaces and the do need that dashes in between. If you need to change them. So you notice Jonathan Gordon sent us in a picture from the scene. All we did there was, if you go to embed up here, asset, it's going to bring up all the pictures. So if somebody uploads something from the scene, you can find it here. If there's an additional thumbnail or something from previous coverage that you want to add in there, you click that, you can add that right in there. I'm obviously not going to put flowers in the story, so I'm going to remove that. If you want to embed a tweet, there is something called short codes, which I will include in the documentation. It's not the most elegant thing in the world. Bracket Twitter. Let's see. So we're going to take this tweet and I'm going to paste that. Now we have to change X to Twitter because Contentful's still looking for Twitter. And then you want to close this now. Contentful does this really annoying thing where when you put a slash in there, it thinks that it's some type of code for something. What I usually do for that is I just cut it and then I copy paste plain format. So I do Control-Shift-V, put it there, do that. I'm not going to publish this because I don't want this to show in the story, but this is what would put a tweet in the story. Okay. And it is the same thing for YouTube, except instead of Twitter, you're doing YouTube and then /YouTube at the end with the link to the YouTube video. Okay. Did I miss anything else, Lee, Bob, Brian?
When you update a story, sometimes it doesn't automatically update. So you do you want to explain breaking the cache? How do we?
I think cache is in a good spot right now, but if you ever needed to, like, so there is caching on the website, right? Like, we want to make sure that if the website goes down, that there's still content being displayed. And if that happens, sometimes the content will be old, but you want to make sure that the story that you published is actually like there and is going to update. So if you need to do a background check, I think it's just like what, ampersand and then a bunch of like random numbers, right?
Yeah, a question mark and like 3 numbers. Yeah.
Yeah, and then you just do this, and that'll break the cache for you, so you can make sure that your changes are actually published. And then when the caching goes through later, it'll update on its own. That's in an extreme case. Most of the time, you're not going to have to worry about that.
And then one other thing, that story that you had up there, if you could just show the abstract, we just have to make sure that the headline and the abstract aren't the same.
Yes.
And the lead.
And the lead, yes.
Yep. You always want to have a strong lead. You want to make sure that these are somewhat, you know, separate. Like I said, you want to have strong headline, a little bit more information to entice people, and then come right out of the gate with the most important piece of content in the story. You don't want to bury the lead. You want to take the most important, most interesting thing, get it right out there, right in front, and that'll be covered a little more in the writing class. But
Two little notes I'd like to just mention.
go for it.
One, when you are putting in one of those embedded items, it's always important to check your work afterward, because sometimes there can be slight differences in the coding that you get. And so, you know, you could be trying to grab a YouTube URL and it may show up a little differently because it was a live event and it has a slightly different URL, and that can break the embed. And if it doesn't work correctly, what will show up in your article will be the brackets and that URL in the middle of your copy. So you want to just double check that that is showing up clean when you're doing it. The other thing, I had to pop out and check on a presser real quick. did you mention the concept of unpublishing and how it can break the site if the article is attached anywhere?
So I believe that was fixed, but
Okay.
if you ever do need, and again, we shouldn't be unpublishing. Breaking news banners are one thing. You can unpublish those when the breaking news is done. We shouldn't really be unpublishing stories unless there's a really good reason, and it would have to go through managerial approval. If if there was something really wrong with the story and it can't be on the site anymore and it has to come down, that has to go through a manager. But in that case, if you were going to do that, you just need to make sure that you're hitting this, that you can unpublish. There's also scheduling options here too, and I don't know how much anybody's going to really get into that. But if you need this to be unpublished at a specific time, you can just hit schedule from the drop down and then put in the date and time that you would like this unpublished. And also you can change, like if this was an unpublished article, you can actually schedule when you would like it to be published at a specific time. It's there. We don't really use that, but it's an option if you need it.
That breaking the category / homepage issue can also happen if you accidentally publish the story list with like a story that's in draft. It could be you just missed the publish button. It doesn't necessarily have to be an unpublished item. Let's say you're doing a big batch of stories all for one show, and one of them you just didn't hit publish on, but you put it into the story list. That could break the homepage.
And if it's a dated item like a heat story or Thunderbolt, you can just take it off of the carousel and you can untag local. The story will be live still, but people can't see it on the homepage or in the local section.
Yeah, like if you needed to pull something out of the carousel, we'll go back to our story list. And any of these stories, you could just hit these 3 dots and remove it, and it'll come down out of the carousel. All right, I know it's a lot to take in. Does anybody have any questions right now? And if you don't, you can always reach out to myself or Bob or Lee or Brian, anybody, Marlon, anybody, we can walk you through any questions that you encounter down the line. I think the most important part of this presentation is the basic story posting, because that's what you're going to be doing the bulk of the time. So please let me know if you have any questions on anything now.
Yeah, Frank, great job. Everyone else who chimed in as well, really good job. I think moving forward, what we're going to do is, as mentioned before in a lot of the other conversations, is posting this particular instructional tutorial guideline that Frank and team went through. So you can always go back and review it. I think also everyone will have a seat in Contentful. I personally had checked with the company on that. We have over 3,000 available seats. So there's no shortage of people having seats there. So that's the great thing. I think once you have those seats, you'll also be able to log into, and Frank, on the last slide, I had put it in last minute, some resources, some helpful resources. There are links to Contentful that has instructional videos as well. And those are very intuitive, very easy to run through, very quick to learn. And those can be also very, very helpful once you get your access. So more than enough resources, more than enough people to help with this. And then, in September, we'll definitely start the ball rolling with publishing more stories to the website with your beautiful hands and wonderful brains. So, all right.
Before we pop off, anybody have any questions? All right.
All right, great.
Thank you, guys.
All right, thank you.